Okay, so today we're taking a look at Broken Lines on the Nintendo Switch. This one we're getting an alternate history version of World War II. But does this bring tactical turn-based combat to the Switch in all of its glory? Or is this one just simply a misfire? Well, as always, that's what we're here to find out, so hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Over 1,000 of you have joined us in just the last month, insane to me. But yeah, let's get started. So story, and this one we find ourselves in charge of a ragtag group of soldiers who crash land behind enemy lines. With no captains or any sort of leadership around, we have no idea what the mission is or what we're in fact supposed to be doing. As far as we're actually concerned, this was just empty, neutral territory with no opposition in sight. Well, I gotta say, we were very wrong. Our only option, work to understand who this masked enemy is. They have a fondness for gas masks, and just get out as quickly as possible. Now, while the story is nothing, revolutionary, I will say it's well presented to us. Each character here gets a small biography, there's consistent cutscenes between missions, and there's ethical discussions between our group that constantly grow in size. The storyline is truly where Broken Lines separates itself with branching pathways. You see, this isn't just like the linear typical mission after mission, but we get to make the decision: do we, let's say, attack the enemy head on or look for an escape vehicle? Do we save the locals or do we push on ahead and just try and get out as quickly as possible? Each step in the story comes at the cost of a decision. Where do we go next? And that actually later results in one of multiple endings. So with the campaign, my first playthrough was done in around 6.5 hours, but I do see at least 3 playthroughs ahead of you. That's because so often the game actually threw 3 different mission choices at me, meaning I actually left a lot of this one unseen. Problems wise, story a couple. The biographies for each character are nice and in depth, but the personality, we rarely really see them across. The dialogue just doesn't relay who they're supposed to be. It relies more on stereotypes, if anything, the muscle, the brains, and so on. Also, cutscenes, they're pretty weak, relying on text and just, still imagery. I would have liked to have seen a few more cutscenes that were just truly animated. It's because of this, I've got to say as well, the ending, it just kind of felt underwhelming, sadly. Overall, it's a very cool setup that quickly establishes itself as an alternate history. I enjoyed the plot, even though I did want more, but just know this is in no way realistic. This, if anything, is almost fantasy when it says alternate history. Not saying anything more, but just be warned, if you're hoping for Saving Private Ryan or something along that lines, you're going to be sorely disappointed. So gameplay wise, and we have a turn-based strategy title that, if anything, is a little more action focused with a super quick pace of play. This, it's squad based. You're leading a group of up to 5 soldiers and you'll be moving each of them individually as each turn comes around. Now as you move, however, though, so does your enemy, meaning it keeps that pace high, never asking you to, sit still and watch as your enemy makes their decisions and moves their pieces in play. It's an interesting mechanic, I gotta say you're storming over a bridge, but then an enemy reveals itself. Here, the game actually pauses itself, allowing you to adjust your plan, allowing you to adjust your strategy. Maybe you were running into an opening or something. Well, at this point, you may want to now change that and head for the nearest cover and obviously prepare for that ensuing firefight. Now, as you do progress, your squadron will also grow, opening up new teammates to utilise. These soldiers, they come in all shapes and sizes, and also male and female, and for the most part bring something fresh to the table. Whether that's a particular gun type with different abilities, like let's say putting an enemy quickly on his ass so he can't fire back at you, to healing powers, to just spraying bullets everywhere. This mechanic, it's very much the lifeblood of Broken Lines. Prep your team, understand how your abilities complement each other, and then go to war. I started one mission without a soldier who, could just simply spray bullets and suppress my enemies. This ended really badly for me because I couldn't distract my opponents while my more powerful soldiers were flanking from the sides. This led to my death very quickly. This, though, I gotta say, it's very much just scratching the surface of Broken Lines. There's a huge number of other mechanics in here you need to worry about too. Like when a squad member panics under fire, you're gonna lose control of them for 1 turn, so you need to watch what's their stamina bar. You need to know as well when to use special weapons like rocket launchers and grenades. Also when to use what we'll call your special abilities, regrouping and healing everyone, or using a fission ability that allows you to see enemies further in the distance. With each firefight too, you'll find your squadron just losing composure, lose too much composure, and they'll actually just disappear into the night between missions. I'll tell you now, this never ends well for anyone. One of mine appears to have been eaten by wolves, for example, so it's in your best interest to pay careful attention to your squad's, let's say, mental status. This status too, it's not just impacted by the missions, but everything that happens in between. You'll find yourself stationed at a camp where you rest each night. Here you'll have the option to take part in things like side scenarios. They're basically text-based, they culminate in a decision that you need to make. Let's say you come across an old lady distraught. Do you save her and help her, or shoot her and steal her belongings? Making a decision here then will normally make you side with one of your team members, which also sadly means you're going to upset another one. Also at camp, you're going to find a store too where you can buy new abilities for your squadron, barter for new weapons, and buy super essential supplies. Supplies meaning food. Now as I progressed, I continually ran out of food, meaning I was screwed, as I had to make a decision to either starve just one individual on my team or feed everyone a reduced ration. Each mission then too comes with a scoring system, again pushing you towards replayability. It gives you a score based on time taken, kills and deaths. I found the time taken a bit weird, honestly, like it was trying to rush me. Surely, at least in my mind, a strategy game is about patience, so I'm not sure how I quite feel about that implementation. Now when it comes to controls then, it's not bad. Obviously any game would be better with a mouse in this style, but I found these actually pretty smooth to operate, and a mission or two in, I was really quick with them. There's a lot going on, but everything connects to one of the buttons on the Joy-Cons. It never overcomplicates things, so the experience, I've got to say, I was pretty impressed. It's not quite a smooth handout, unfortunately. There's a bit of jerkiness behind the movement, but it worked once I got used to it again. Sadly, I gotta say though, I had my fair share of problems with broken lines. Stages, I've gotta say, they're extremely linear, mostly consisting of just one objective, and you basically start at a location and then proceed towards said flag on screen. I would have liked to have seen more missions with more than just one objective. Also, when it came to navigation, I did find there was only normally like 2 or 3 different paths available to me. Initially playing the game, what I would do is split up, covering more of the area, but when I realised, what was going on quickly and it was just one objective, I'd stick together. I'm stronger that way, and it was half the work, because if the enemies don't see me, they don't come looking for me, so I'd only ever have to face that one path of opposition. It just feels like the game always hands you the solution, and I wish it made me work a little bit harder to uncover what I needed to. Like one level I had to find petrol, went to the flag, opened 3 boxes, and job done. Why not scatter these around the map, making me really work and also be strategic? My endgame strategy was basically just charge. Perhaps the biggest issue then as well, once you reach said goal, the game cuts to mission success. So often I was actually surrounded by tons of enemies, but the screen tells me I escaped successfully. Surely it would have made more sense to make me clear an area first before allowing, a completion. Strong strategy with this one, honestly. If you're getting your ass kicked, just sprint for that end goal and hope you don't die in the process. My last problem, I gotta say, I did have a hard crash with this one. I got the mission complete screen and boom, the game had to quit. It only happened once. It might not happen to you at all, but it might also happen a ton more, so I want to put it out there because it didn't save my location, meaning it kicked me to the very beginning of my previous checkpoint. Also, I had like this weird visual bug as well at one point when all my squad members died. It left their symbols on screen when I restarted at the top, so I now had 2 of everybody, 1 alive, 1 dead. Didn't last long, but it was a bit strange for sure. Now quickly, before we do move on, one really well designed area for broken lines, it's the difficulty options. Here you get the usual, obviously, like easy, medium and hard, but then we also get a customize option where you can change the types of enemies you're facing. You can change their strength, the weapons they have, the number of revivals you can do. It's a really cool concept that you can basically bump it in like nearly every area and make it a very different playstyle for what you're looking for. Overall, at gameplay, I enjoyed it until I realised how to basically just manipulate the whole experience. Small groups, stealth my way around the area, and then charge for that end goal. It has some great ideas with basically interchangeable weapons, skills, squad management, rations, decision trees that impact the story. But the missions themselves are just sadly lacking where it matters the most, making me use my brain and use tactics. Now obviously ramping that difficulty is of course going to make it more difficult to pull off that strategy, but it's still very far from perfect. If you're a veteran of the genre and you're going to jump into this one, I'd just say start at that very highest from the very beginning. Also just know as well, the Switch build, there's no multiplayer unlike its PC, Xbox and PS4 brothers. So graphically, it's a bit of a mess, honestly. In missions, environments and soldiers are just plagued with heavy pixelation and low textures. It just all looks a bit muddy. There's a fair share of popping too. You will occasionally see the game's beauty, but more often than not, as things get manic on screen, it can just become a bit of a nightmare understanding where you are and what's happening. This is particularly true of any night-based level where it's just so muddy and dark I could hardly work out where I was going at times. Fortunately though, for those handheld players out there, gotta say it seems to fare a little bit better there, where they're not quite as noticeable. When it comes to the user interface on screen, I gotta give it to them, I really liked it. Pictures of my soldiers, they changed to match their mental stability or if they were injured, and it was all very simple to navigate. This goes for any menu in this game actually, you know, equipping a soldier, mixing up skill sets, or simply purchasing goods at the store. These were just really great, and they got the complicated to visually be very simple. Which yeah, respect, because on a console, games like this so often just stumble hard in that area. Now sadly, I can't say the same thing about the 3D models of our soldiers when we're in the camp between missions. These are some like super low detail looking soldiers that rarely looked anything like their nicely hand-drawn avatars. Frame rate lasts up and it's relatively stable, the occasional drop here and there, but nothing that's an issue, and typically only when the game's, you know, loading something in like a new batch of enemies. Overall, look, I can see the foundation of something relatively solid here, but it's lacking in the Switch build. A few patches here and there could strongly help this one, I'm sure, but I've got to say, it's not really a huge game. You know, these maps are not the biggest. For me, I can't see that it's pushing the Switch. I'm not really sure why the port here is such a stark difference. You know, like I said, compared to the PS4, Xbox One or PC, it's a huge difference. Even just if they start with the sharpness of the image, that would be an amazing step up for this one. Sadly though, right now, visually, I'm disappointed, especially when occasionally I saw how good it could look. Audio-wise, I really like the work here, I really do. The soundtrack is somber but really nice. It's got a suitably desperate yet epic feeling to it all, if that makes sense. And it totally matches the scenarios we face. Then with the sound effects, it had pretty much everything I wanted. You know, grunts for our soldiers before dialogue. There's an ominous voiceover that sets the scene and the mystery of everything. And then all the weapons, they had something in place to represent, you know, the power each of your squadron wields. If I could change anything, I'd say a little bit more music if I'm being picky. Definitely heard tracks repeating, but that's not a negative on the game, that's just I really liked it, and like most people, if I like something, I'd always be appreciative of more. Also, voice actors for our band of soldiers would have been a nice touch to really hear their individual personalities and emotional responses rather than just making me read them. Overall, look, audio's really strong stuff. So the final verdict on Broken Lines is sadly a disappointment. I was really looking forward to this one, and it just failed to deliver, mostly on a technical front. The controls, the gameplay, it works, but quickly I found avenues to exploit the missions ahead of me. Graphically, the best way then to describe it is muddy, and the missions, they're so linear in their design. I never felt like I truly had that much freedom or that many options to find success. A game like this should be crafted to let me do what I want, and if anything, the maps were just overall too small or the objectives were just too close to my starting point. Normally, honestly, a mission here would take me somewhere in the region of 6 to 7 minutes. Most of them, in fact, actually, for the highest medal, the game's actually going to ask you to beat them in sub 5 minutes just to give you an idea. It's almost like, if I had to describe it, bite-sized tactical strategy. Now with that being said though, I gotta say it still has its good points for fans of the genre. It's got an entertaining story that I truly was personally interested in. It has multiple endings at each point, meaning you can replay this at least 3 times. And then the controls, for a genre that's famous for a PC setup, they've transitioned them so nicely to a Joy-Con format. I had my problems with this one for sure, but when all is said and done, I will say I still enjoyed my time with it. I kept pushing forward, I wanted to see the ending, and I kind of want to revisit it now and see what else is in here. You just need to go in expecting to be forgiving of its problems, and that's a concern when I factor in the price of $24.99 in the US, £22.49 in the UK, and €24.99 in Europe. Way, way, way too expensive for what we're getting here, or at least in its current state. Today I'm awarding Broken Lines a 5 out of 10 average. Best way to explain this one, for every good point there's a bad one, and while I don't regret my time with it, it's hard to recommend with so many problems and that price tag. The average rating though, it's because there's enough in here for genre fans to get stuck into. I'm waiting on XCOM now myself next month, let's hope that one is done justice. With that though, thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Broken Lines. Can you justify the cost here to pick it up? Hit that like button if we helped you out, and yeah, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all on the next Switch Corner.